It was 1:30 a.m. on a Tuesday when it had happened. That night, I had finished up school for the term, and I was enjoying myself long until midnight, watching movies and eating shit food. It felt good to be free of responsibilities for a bit, and to take a load off. I had gone to sleep close to 1 that day, and that's probably the only reason I heard it happen. I tend to break out in sweats, thinking of how different it may have been if I had gone to sleep earlier and never woken up. I woke from my light sleep with a harsh breath. I looked around the room suddenly, and then breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't Michael Myers. At least not yet. It may have been stubborn of me to watch horror films until late that night, because as I started to feel a bubbling pressure in my bladder, I started to get anxious about going to the toilet. My parents are clinically heavy sleepers. Not legitimately, but according to me. They could sleep through a hurricane, or even a break-in, and I wondered how they even survived in this neighborhood long enough to have me. I threw the covers off my chest and swung myself right to the edge of the bed, hitting the ground with a fairly loud thud. I wasn't concerned. If anything, the neighbors would wake first. I made my way to the end of my room and clasped the doorknob. With a couple of harsh attempts, I furrowed my eyebrows. The doorknob wouldn't budge. I don't have a lock on my door, so how could it have locked me in? Looking at the door closely, I recognized dozens of scratches and tears in the wood, decrepit paint falling off at every corner. It just must be on its way out, I thought to myself. As much as I bragged about my parents being heavy sleepers, this may have been crossing the line. I needed to pee, and I needed to go bad, so my only option was to ram the door open. In hindsight, this was a bit extreme, but I was 12 at the time and loved to feel like a badass. I rubbed the sleep from my eyes and made my way to the wall across from the door. I reared back, preparing to gain as much speed as possible, and bolted straight towards it. Arching my shoulder forward to brace the impact, I collided with the door as it flung open effortlessly. I, with the rest of the force aimlessly flying with me, was thrown into the hallway as I smacked onto the wooden floor with a loud slap. My hand shot to my face, and thankfully, no blood. The right side of my face was numb, including my now swollen lip, and my knee ached terribly. I pulled myself to my feet and almost limped my way down the hall. In terms of layout, my room lies at the end of a long hallway on the first floor of our house. After coming out of my room and looking forward, directly in front of you will be the door to my parents' room. A quarter of the way down, and to my left, is the bathroom, where I'm heading, as well as the sliding door to the outside next to it. A series of arches and doors on the right side will lead you around to the living room, kitchen, garage, and entryway. It was dark, and I couldn't make out much in the hallway, but I knew where I was going. I stared aimlessly into the darkness of the long hallway as I walked, but it didn't bother me much. I didn't have a fear of the dark, at least back then. I turned into the toilet and flicked on the light. It looked much the same. The toilet across from the door, a sink to the left, and the bath to its right, which doubled as a shower, with an old shower curtain. I finished up my business. I tend to stand when I pee, so I stood facing the toilet, my back turned to the hallway. I flushed, which made a loud noise of water screeching down the bowl, and I winced at the sound. I turned to the sink to wash my hands and looked in the mirror. There was a face in the shower curtain. The face of a gaunt, creepy figure was pressing through the curtain. Features like its brow, nose, and unnerving smile making their way through the opaque material and protruding out of the plastic. The worst part is, this face was at the very top of the curtain, which hung about 7 feet in the air. I was in absolute terror, and I couldn't move a muscle. Then there was slight movement behind the curtain, and I bolted. Swinging the door shut behind me, I flew out of the bathroom and drifted left. I bolted down that hallway faster than I'd ever run before. The sound of the curtain moving and small thuds coming from inside the bathroom came from behind me. I heard the door creak open, and adrenaline overtook my system as I shot down that hallway. I'd done it once, I'd do it again. I ran straight into the closed door of my parents' room. With a loud bang, the door shot open, and I was set rolling across the carpet. My lamp was immediately switched on, followed by my dad asking what I was doing, and a deep yawn from my mother. My body ached so terribly from the impact, but there was no time to limp, as I shot myself up and went to slam the door with another loud bang. My mother's lamp now coming on.
What's going on? Why are you slamming everything?
I turned to face them, hyperventilating like a maniac, a look of unexplainable terror on my face, tears running down my cheek, and pee soaking in my trousers. I guess I didn't get it all out after all. Safe to say, I had the shit scared out of me. Dad made his way out of bed to check if I was okay, while Mum, concerned, grabbed her phone in case she needed to dial any numbers. I blurted out everything that had happened, but as I came to the end, my dad interjected.
What on earth happened to your feet?
My feet were lacerated with glass, and blood was drooling out of the injuries, staining their beige carpet. My dad pushed me back towards my mum, who was now out of bed, and she grabbed me tightly. She brought me towards the closet. Apparently she had already dialed the police during my story, and was ready to have us hide in the closet if things went south. My dad stepped back from the door, and pulled a metal baseball bat from under the bed. A strong look of concern warped his usually calm face. Then, without warning, he kicked the door in, sending it flying from its hinges. Then swung his arm around to the light switch and flicked it on, a bright light scarring my eyes. The lights in our hallway were strong, so strong in fact, they now completely illuminated the bedroom we were in. I could see my feet more clearly now, and I got nauseous looking at the glass shards still lodged inside my sensitive arches. My dad peered into the long hallway, his knuckles white as he clenched the bat. Every door was closed, except for the bathroom door. He motioned for us to move in behind him and take a look. Then he pointed to the door on his right, that leads to our back deck. It was completely shattered, and glass was scattered across the hallway, accompanied by deep shades of red that were strewn across the pieces, slowly forming footsteps as they approached the room. I never even felt it. That thing I'd seen in the shower wasn't my imagination, and there was a real intruder in our home. The cops came shortly after, as we were local to the station, and after searching the house thoroughly and doing a scan of the perimeter, they found no intruder. They were long gone, or at least the police assured. There were signs of someone leaping over our back fence, but as I explained the estimated size of the intruder, all of the cops looked at me, perplexed. I was young back then, but apparently it seemed almost impossible for a near 7-foot figure to have leapt over a 6-foot fence, which didn't make sense to me at the time. Thinking back on it, they denied it for the same reason I want to today, because the thought of that thing being more nimble than me is utterly petrifying. After giving my recount to the detectives present on the scene, they concluded that it must have heard me get from my bed, and that I must have woken to the sound of it coming inside. It somehow made its way to my door without me noticing, and held the doorknob shut. As my dad mentioned, it was impossible for my lockless door to have jammed the way it did, but they weren't sure why it would have done that. It didn't make any sense. After getting to the bathroom and peeing, they think it actually came into the bathroom behind me as I flushed the toilet. Shivers go up my spine every time I imagine how close it was to me as it got behind that curtain. Safe to say, we removed that curtain the same night. This was most definitely the scariest thing to have ever happened to me, and I dread an outcome where I never woke up. If I had gone to sleep at a usual time, later that week, I kept seeing long gaunt figures in the corners of dark rooms wherever I looked, even at the end of that same hallway when I got up late at night. As soon as I hit 18, I moved out of that house, but it still haunts me ever since.